So these metrics right here, this is sleep and overall feeling. Your athlete has to manually go in and enter these. If they do, that will also give you another big indication of how they're doing when they're at. So if you look and see, okay, he got 4 and let's call it 5 hours of sleep that day. You can go in and see what his workouts were like on May the 16th, and that will give you a better gauge. And you can see, all right, he got a little over 6 hours right here. Let's see how he did on May the 25th. And if he didn't have a great workout, you can actively give that athlete feedback and say, hey, when you have less than 6 hours of sleep, you do not perform well. And here's why. Here's the proof that I have from it, which is another great feedback tool. This is peak heart rate for you. This is calories by week. So this athlete has been doing a really great job of entering how many calories he's consumed over the course of the week. And then, of course, the TrainingPeaks software, once you have the data tracker and everything set up, it will automatically do calories expended for you. It won't have to do a thing. So you can see he's eating about 4,700 calories a week over more than he's expending, which for him might be what he needs to be doing if he wants to maintain weight. Um, peak race by distance right here, you can see his 10K time. This is for the run. That's his peak 5K time, 5:53. That gives you another feedback tool right there. TSS by all weeks. He is starting to ramp up for Ironman Maryland. As you saw, he's 13 weeks out. So you can see these red lines right here are the amount of TSS in a week. And you can see that that's slowly starting to increase as the weeks progress. The blue line is the intensity factor average. That's the amount of intensity that he is completing the average over the course of the week. So it's about 84% of his max over the average of each week, which is really cool. Another metric right here, his weight and overall feeling. So you can see he has a downward trend as we continue, and his overall feeling, he has not been entering, so you cannot see that, but you can see his weight and how it has been tracking. You can see the duration by week, which I have here, distance by week, run. We're maintaining about the same because he's maintaining a pretty heavy training load run. You can see his power profile right here because he has power. If your athlete does not have power, then you will not be able to see this. But you can see, it's just a fun little graph, his 5-minute power right here, his peak 5-minute power over the course of each week. And you can see where that puts him amongst other cyclists. So his 60-minute power right here puts him in about a middle of a Cat 4 rider. This last one down here is his run fitness. His is pretty much maintaining until the race. His run history for the run, you can see he started out in June with a 60-minute average of 7:40. He doesn't have one yet for this month, so we will go into the 20-minute, which he started at a 6:30. Now he's down to a 6:14 for this month already, and it is in gray. It's not a solid color like May because we have not finished this June month yet. And that is all the dashboard graphs that you need to look at and see. There's a lot, but the more you look at it, the more you play around with it, the better you'll be. The next tab that we're going to talk about up here is our ATP tab, Annual Training Plan tab. And you can see there's a lot of bars and graphs, but before we get to that, we're going to click this gear icon right here, Edit Our ATP. So once you get an athlete, if this is not set up, you can set this up for them. We started in the middle of January, and we're going to go to the middle of January next year. We're just having a yearly plan right here. After he does his Philly Marathon, we'll give him some time off, and we'll start again in January and progress to the next year's events. If you do not have these late season races, then you do not have to start on January 1. You can start and tweak the start and end dates to this as many as you want. But once you set it, I highly suggest you keep the date ranges at least, okay? Because your athlete might be doing something in fall, in winter, they might be doing base time there. Another athlete that you have, you might be doing base time in January. For us, since we have this late season marathon, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be focusing on recovery towards the end of the year, and then we're going to start to get into our base phase, which is at the beginning of the next year. When you set your ATP up, you can choose to do your periodization automatically or manually. You can indicate the fitness level of this athlete. So if we wanted to change this to a week when we were first starting out, and we wanted a recovery cycle of every 3 weeks, you could enter that and click it. You can, I've selected training volume based off of TSS. So we're going to do a weekly average of 900 TSS, so of a higher load than most. You can see his easiest weeks are going to be at a 510. His hardest week is going to be around a 1050 TSS, and his annual TSS is going to be 6,000, which is right around where you want to be for that Ironman. His fitness start, this is where he started out, right there, and we've progressed him all the way up. You can see his races right here, and if you wanted to change this, let's put it as a C priority. It's a marathon, so we're going to put it as a run of over 2 hours. And if you wanted to dig in a little bit deeper, that he has the event date, the road running, it's a marathon, it's a run over 2 hours, priority. We're putting it as a C. He's going to try to Boston qualify at this, which is a pretty ambitious goal after an Ironman. We're going to save it. We're going to go out here, and then we're going to click Save. If you click Save and recalculate after adjusting this, that's going to throw off your ATP that you already have set up. So I'm just going to save it, and then I'll explain what I'm talking about. Now, there's going to be a whole lot of bars and graphs. The easiest line to see is this orange line, and that is your athlete's form level right now. So if it dips below a 20, 25, then you know you're starting to creep into that danger zone, or you're starting to get into that zone where you have to go a little bit deeper to kind of get a fitness progression and angle. This blue line, his fitness level, as you can see, the ATP fitness, that is his 98. His actual fitness is 96. So he's actually 2 fitness points ahead of his annual training plan fitness projected area, which is really cool to see right there. If we go into the future, we can see, okay, he's actually right here. His ATP fitness is going to should be a 103. His actual fitness is going to be a 99. So he is 4 points away from the predicted ATP fitness. And it doesn't always have to match exactly. And in often cases, it shouldn't. Because if there was a race, like this athlete just completed right here, this is a half Ironman, remember, so he has to do some recovery time. And so if he just keeps training through that, a lot of times you're going to create issues for your athletes. So there needs to be some recovery time after a race, and you can always catch up some of those fitness points later on. As you can see, we're going to catch up to that fitness point as we get later on into the year, which is not a problem. Now, the gray graphs right here, those are, if you hover over them, you're going to see that it has a name associated with it because I've gone in here and I've created a name for it. And if you wanted to change that, this was July 7th. So we're going to go to July 7th down here. And if you double click it, I have a couple of these already set up, and you can just select which one that you want. If you select it and click out of it, it will change it for you, and it will change it up here as well. These gray lines are the amount of ATP TSS. So if you look over there, his ATP TSS, training suffer score for the course of that week, is going to be a 900. If we back up on this one, his ATP TSS was a 790, and he completed 850. So he completed a little bit more, which would explain why his actual fitness is a little bit higher than that ATP fitness, which is really cool to see. But again, you can see where the amount of TSS is going to increase over the course, and also 1, 2, 3, and then he has a rest week down here. 1, 2, 3 rest week, and then he's got his race week. So this gives you a quick glance to see what the athlete is going to be doing and when, if you are planning into the future. And you can also see these numbers over here. And you can see our plan goes until August 19th right here, right? And then you have the fitness of where it should be and the actual. Notice there's a big drop off right here. And again, the explanation of that is because we have not planned out further than August 20th. So we go from a really high CTL right here to a really low, really fast. And that's just because there was no workouts planned up until the race yet. If we go onto his calendar, you can also see the ATP period of where he is right here. His ATP period right here is 900 TSS. That is the estimated where he should be. And this gray number right here is the total TSS that is planned for the course of that week. The dark number to the right is the amount that he's completed. So if you look, he's completed 74. And if you go back over to his swim workout, this 74 TSS is what he has completed. You can see it right there. Really cool. So that explains that. Obviously, all the other numbers are going to be the exact same way. So he is going to do 27.5 miles of running this week. And each time he completes a run, like today, he's going to be about 4 miles. So this number will increase to 4 miles today after he uploads his workout. The next thing that you need to dive into are his zones. So if you hover over here and you click this gear icon right here, a whole nother profile is going to pop up, a whole nother window. He has his profile, his settings. So if you go over here, he's a premium athlete. He has me as a coach. He's got his calendar. This is the link that you need to sync it up. Email options. I have opted to select this athlete a daily email schedule. So every night at 6 p.m. to 7, he's going to get an email for the next day's workout and the days after that. So it's just 2 days in advance, so that gives that athlete a little more of an opportunity to prepare and figure out what needs to happen in his life to make all his workouts fit into his daily schedule. If you scroll down, I get notifications on my mobile about this, or he does on his mobile phone and email if I comment in a workout, which is what I showed you earlier. His zones, this is another very important area that you need to set up. Everyone starts out with a default heart rate. I strongly suggest that you do a bike heart rate and a run heart rate. Your bike threshold heart rate, and we are using the USAT zone model, so recovery gray 1, 2, 3, best sustainable effort. You're going to enter his threshold heart rate, scroll down here, threshold heart rate, and then you're going to choose USAT for cycling because, again, this is bike heart rate. So you click that, and then this is going to be the exact same because nothing has changed. But if you entered a different number up here, like a 165, then these numbers would increase slightly, and then you would hit apply. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to change anything. Same for the running, okay? Same exact model. You're probably going to have a different number cycling than running, as you notice here. His zones are going to be a little bit higher on the run, which is very, very common. Power, again, you get a default power. Strongly recommend that you do bike power because you might have some athletes that have bike power and then also run power. He does not, but if you wanted to add it, you would just hit run, add, and then you have his run power. You would enter his threshold. Do you want to remove this? Yes. Okay. So you can see his biking zones, and this is going to come in handy later, and we'll talk about it. The next one up is speed. Strongly recommend that you enter these speed variables even if you're not planning workouts based off of speed, because that will give you time and that will give you a more accurate TSS and intensity score. All of that, it's going to come in big handy. So have a default one, that's great, but you need to get a little more specific and enter your swim speed, because this is primarily what's going to happen for your swim. There's not too many variables that you can enter, so speed is a key distance marker. For speed, we actually change it up and we use distance and time, and we use Joe Friel for swimming. Okay, so you're just going to enter Joe Friel for swimming, and you're going to enter their threshold. So for a 126, he's probably averaging a 124. Yeah, 124, and his paces are the same. But again, we're not entering anything different. His bike speed right here, this is going to come in handy again for planning workouts. You don't want to have a lower miles per hour threshold than it should be. If that's the case, you're going to have a lot more predicted time than good time for bike workouts once you get outside. It's a little bit difficult in the winter because a lot more people are on trainers, but once you get outside, that speed becomes more key. And again, we set it up in the USAT model. You can see their zones over here. You can manually tweak this if you have some abnormalities with an athlete, but I highly suggest you wait it out and don't adjust things for a week or so at least. Run speed, this is going to be a great one for planning run workouts, especially track workouts with those short, intense intervals. A lot of times those heart rate numbers can't catch up in time and your athlete will go too easy or too hard. That's where pace comes in. And again, you've set that threshold pace, you've set it up to the zone model that you want to use, and you can see where each zone is and notifications right here. I highly recommend you don't click this box to notify your athlete of suggested threshold changes, because every time they go over their threshold, they'll get an email and you'll get a question about why you're not raising their threshold. So uncheck this box and only check this one, notify me of suggested threshold changes, and you can get a notification every time it is set off. Nutrition, he set a daily calorie goal of 2,400. Your athlete can do that. Equipment, this is something that comes in a lot of handy. A triathlon bike. He's entered his shoes, so you can see how many miles are on your shoes if you go into the workout and select that. And that's another feedback tool for the athlete, so they can see, all right, I've had 330 miles on this shoe, and that is probably why you see this new one in here. Just make sure you adjust that to be your default one once you get a new one. You can also come in here and give them feedback as well. Say, hey, you've ran 300 miles on this pair of shoes. It might be time to get another one. Your layout, choose your default view upon login. I've entered home. It's a great one to be in. You don't want to be in ATP or dashboard too much, because once you get a lot of athletes, the home one is an area where you can see a lot of people very easily. Calendar, I've pretty much slid everything over. Compliance, same thing. You need to slide over in your quick views pretty much all of your runs, bikes, swims, everything. Just slide it over. Your metrics, you really don't have to enter that over so much. Your weekly summary, just slide all of this over. And then once you're done, you're done. Now,